Beginning ODO podcast in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the ODO podcast, where normal is not my specialty. I am your host, the eternally confused Adam Higgins, the Odd Dad Out, and this is the show where I'm changing format, even though I told you I was going to save this for a couple of weeks, but fuck it, I just didn't have the time to research this week. Where I tell some stories, I tell you about some podcasts I think you should listen to, and I crown some stupid idiot from the news a jackass of the week, because I'm still kind of an asshole that way. You can find me at oddadoutpodcast.com, and I'm saying it up front because I totally believe that a lot of you just don't stick around to the end where I say all the spiel. And all of the other stuff is there, all the social media, so we'll save that for the end. I'll leave it there, but at least know where you can go to find all the stuff aside from that. Anyway, thank you for checking out the show, thank you for being awesome, and all those other sorts of thank yous that people say at the beginning of their podcast. So, you may or may not have noticed I might sound a little bit different this time. Why? Because I decided I wanted to fuck around with the EQ this week. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I was doing voice stuff this week. And right off the bat, thank you to Chris the Mole Man from the Mole Man Show. Guy hired me to do the intro for his show. It was kind of cool. Like, hey, yeah, he's a friend who's trying to help me out by giving me a job in that particular case. But I'm just going to say, somebody paid me to be a voice, so it's pretty cool. Anyway, but I don't know. Maybe because it's that whole podcasters don't like the sound of their own voice, and after a while you just get used to it thing. I don't know, but I don't know. I'm just experimenting with the sound today, I guess. I'm changing. I'm jumping in and changing the sound a bit anyway. So I figured, you know what? Let's go ahead and put on the radio voice and turn the bass and the shit all the way up so you sound like you're on the radio. Yeah, I can't sustain that. No, I absolutely could. I could do the whole show that way, but I'm pretty sure after about 30 seconds, you'd all run. Because, okay, I know my voice is in a weird, what's the word, register, I guess. I know I have a relatively low voice. I'm not like Jeremy Collins low, but I've got a lower than the average bear voice. Okay, I don't know what tone the average bear sounds like. Yogi had a pretty high pitch, but that's a whole other thing. But can you tell I have nothing to talk about this week? I'm on Yogi the Bear. In the first 3 minutes, I'm on Yogi the Bear. So I've just been really busy this week, honestly. It's been one of those kind of weeks, and it's a great thing to have been busy. It's been a lot of, okay, not a lot, but editing podcasts is time consuming, and between the boys and stuff, I just, no time for breathing and for doing a lot of stuff. And I took time off of doing editing work to spend time with my family, because I realized my boys were getting they were getting upset with the amount of time I was spending in front of the computer, even though I would have just been sitting on the couch with them watching a movie instead of them watching the movie without me nagging at them to get away from the TV. But yeah, I just decided I was going to take a day and I was going to, hang out with the boys, and I was going to just decompress a little bit because I had been spending a lot of time in front of the screen. And I will say, I think I need to turn on that blue light filter or something in my computer because I'm spending so much time in front of a screen. But it's just, I like doing it. As tedious as shit as it is, I like doing it. And it's kind of funny because as I've been listening to different people and different things they talk about, and I've, seen, like, listening to Jim Collison on Ask the Podcast Coach with Dave Jackson, and he was talking about Emily Prokop. And yes, I realized it's like this person was talking about this person on this show with this thing and all that, but talking about Emily, who I kind of work for, I guess. But I hear, and she's an editor, and I hear like John Buchanan, and I hear them talk about, oh yeah, they have like this going on in the background with their editing. Like, how do you listen to another thing while you're listening to a thing? I just don't get that. And I guess for me, when like I can multitask to shit in a kitchen, really in a kitchen, you get me. Like I can cook the entire Thanksgiving dinner. And I've said this before. I can do the entire Thanksgiving dinner by myself. 100% I'm on top of the shit. But when I'm sitting here editing a podcast, that's all I'm doing. And I realized that like so many people in my age group, I'm not a millennial, but so many people in my age group, and especially in the podcast ecosphere and people whose lives and kind of who work on the entertainment and internet world. I mean, podcasting is an internet entertainment medium. And we're kind of attached to our phones. We totally are the reason why there's evidence of cell phone addiction. The thing is, I didn't used to be that way. I kind of blame my wife for it. When I had my first smartphone, I didn't have Facebook. My wife made my Facebook. You know, I have Twitter on account of the show. I have an Instagram on account of the show, although I've been neglecting it lately because I've just been busy and I don't take a lot of pictures of myself. Unless it was for, podcast t-shirt day, and I took a bunch of pictures of myself with all my, like, the 4 podcast t-shirts I have, which I think I'm going to buy more. But, okay, not I think. I should have. I intended to buy one of the hashtag We're With Perry. What's it say? But the Hello Cancer WTF to support Perry Johnson. I was going to buy one of those. I just didn't have the money at the time. I wanted to have it ahead of podcast t-shirt day. But anyway, but it was funny because I kept getting comments from people, even though I stuck it in my Instagram story and I put up the first little placard thing. The first panel said I'm channeling my inner Cyanide. And if you're not familiar with Cyanide, she's the host of Little Geek Lost and a few other shows. Much like most other podcasters, you start one show, you do another one and another one and another one, which I've talked about. The only reason I'm not currently doing 2 shows is because my wife is too busy with schoolwork. About it. All that aside, Cyanide also, I think she has like an affiliate program with a t-shirt reseller, something like that. And she is always posting up pictures of her basically in the same position, modeling different t-shirts. And she's got huge eyes. Just on her own. She's got huge eyes. And she also like opens her eyes really big and wide. And so you just see eyes, t-shirt. That's it. And so it's funny because I decided, you know what, I'm going to channel, and I've commented on her post a couple times before, but there was one where she put like a Snapchat filter or something on that gave her like huge, big puppy dog eyes. And I commented, wow, they actually have a Snapchat filter that makes your eyes even bigger. And no shade, but it was funny. And she thought it was funny. So, at least I didn't piss her off, but I decided I was going to do big bug eyes. Why? Because I'm not photogenic. And I figured, you know what? I'm going to just like bug out my eyes. I think it was kind of like Miley Cyrus she said that the reason that she always the reason she always stuck her tongue out in pictures is because she didn't like her smile. She didn't like taking pictures. So she always stuck her tongue out to just kind of break up her face because she never really knew how to. She didn't like her smile. She didn't like the way she looked. So she did that. And this was basically me doing that because I'm not especially photogenic. I have kind of squinty, not so squinty, but I have my eyes, I have kind of a glare and it looks angry, but I don't look like a happy person when I take pictures. I don't have the best smile. I'm just not as photogenic as other people. And so I decided I'm going to do big bug eyes, and big bug eyes actually didn't look terrible. I looked surprised as shit, but it was funny. I just keep getting comments from people or like, you should smile more. No, I'm cool. I'm fine. Even when I smile, I don't like my smile. Not even like I've got bad teeth thing. I just don't like the way my face looks. You ever have that where you just kind of look at yourself and realize like you just kind of, and this is not a self-esteem thing. I'm not meaning this to like shoot down anybody's self-esteem or anything, but I had one of those moments the other day and it was part of it was when and I think I talked about it when I was talking about the glasses bit last week, but I have a funny shaped head, and I realized when I was taking selfies for my glasses to like do the virtual try on with the selfies and all that shit. When I was doing that I have a funny shaped head. I have a very large, funny shaped head. But sometimes I just look in the mirror and I'm like, I'm not that great looking. And it's not even like a self-esteem thing. It's just like, And I don't think I'm ugly by any standards. But I do, like, I mean, I could, yeah. Just, it's one of those I see in photographs. I'm just like, meh. And I guess part of it is I need to shave more regularly. I'm either a full mustache kind of person or not at all. But the goatee works. If I shave it off, it takes 10 years off me. So, and I don't need to look any younger than I already do. As it stands, I can't pass for 33. With the goatee, I don't need people carding me for candy cigarettes. So I'm cool. Drives my wife crazy if I don't shave, but that's a whole other thing. But yeah, like I said, I'm kind of in a funny spot this week where, and this is one of those episodes, Dave Jackson would just scream his head off because one of those, I'm just going to get on my, I don't really have anything to talk about. I kind of have stuff to talk about, but this is basically the first show without news. And so my brain isn't in that news mode. I still will have a Jackass of the Week. I got to do that. That was the first piece of news thing that I ever threw into the show, and I still love doing it. But it's just been one of those, time to go. And that's always been the hardest part of the show, was the news and the researchy bit. And it was funny because I've been listening to, I've always listened to a ton of podcasts about podcasting, and they tell you all these things about here's the things you need to do and to help, get discovered, to help Google find you, and to do all these things. And just recently, Dave Jackson on the School of Podcasting did a whole bit about show notes, and do people read your show notes? And I did a poll. Do you read show notes? What do you look for? What's good notes? What's bad notes? And this whole thing about the headlines or the episode titles and things like that. And I realized I've always had a hard time doing that. And I've had a hard time doing that because of the nature of this show. I usually end up making the title some sort of a pun or a cutesy saying in reference to the news I'm talking about, or maybe what's going on in the whatever stories, whatever I'm talking about. Maybe it's a pun, like a play on what podcast that I'm featuring. Like when I did I Shake My Head with Lisa and Sam, the title was I Shake My Head with, I don't remember what else was in there. Things like that. When I've worked Netflix and Swill into the title. I do that. I kind of try and work that all in more because I have no clue how like SEO work. I'm terrible with that stuff. I'm terrible with the side of this industry, the podcasting stuff, about the writing side, where you got to come up with a catchy title to get people's attention. I can clickbait the shit out of you. I can. But it's one of those integrity sort of things. I cannot in good conscience put up a clickbaity title. My wife got really mad at me for like 3 episodes because I had these super clickbaity titles. And I'm just no good at that. Okay, I'm good at it, but my conscience won't let me do it because it's a dick thing to do. I hate it on YouTube. I hate it on just about every other video and article and stupid whatever. I hate clickbait. Doesn't everybody? Everybody hates clickbait. But I just can't do it. And I can't really, by nature of this show, come up with decent titles, A, ahead of time. B, if I have a title ahead of time, it's because it's all based on the news. It's not based on what I'm talking about. It's based on the news and things like that. But I'm finding myself I'm trying to optimize. I'm trying to grow the audience. And I'm not going to lie. I have lost, peel the curtain behind. Since in the last couple of months, my numbers cut in half. No bullshit. I went from the highest numbers I'd ever had to, in a course of 2 weeks, my numbers bomb. I'm doing me every week. I'm here. I'm doing me. Sucks when that happens, but now it's let's rebuild again. And so I'm trying. I don't know what I'm trying, but I guess I'm trying to work the system, and I want to work the system. But the hard thing about this show, and the hard thing about, and this is kind of a podcasting thing in general, but part of what I have a hard time with, and it kind of goes to like my little blog post, probably, God, that was a month ago, I guess, talking about not selling myself. I'm really bad at selling myself. And so things like, the promotion online, I'm really bad about, and I'm so much better at promoting other people than myself. But the promoting other things and promoting myself online, putting out a ton of Twitter posts and things like that. But like writing show notes for me basically rambling, me just talking and telling stories and things like that for an hour, however the hell long. Realistically, shows are probably going to get much shorter to me cutting out the news, because that was like 20, 30 minutes. But, it's hard to write. Like, the show notes always have consisted primarily of links to the news stories. And my little blurb in the feature of the recommended listening feature. About it. And like, I put a little summary. Here's what I talk about and all that little crap. But I've never really been great with show notes. And because really the bulk of the show is here. But it's just what's spilling out of my head. The only way for me to kind of put this into typed words and print is to listen back to it and kind of recall and type as I go, or have it transcribed, which is just a mess and costs money. And so I didn't want to do either of those things. But what I find is just because I just don't know how I'm supposed to do that. It's a really difficult sort of thing for me. Again, flow of consciousness. And this is like, this whole episode, probably super OG show. This is where I'm really kind of bringing the show back closer to the origins of the show, where it was me rambling and talking. And even if I don't have a thing, I've got a thing. Why? Because I can just pull thoughts out of my head. I can talk about what it is that I'm doing this week, or kind of what I do anyway. But right now we're kind of in that mode of, I'm trying to do the editing thing and the voice stuff, and I've been trying to fight really hard the last couple days to not go on Amazon and buy equipment, because I need to get some different stuff, and I need to upgrade my mixer. I need a different kind of microphone, all these little things. And so I'm trying really hard not to go on Amazon and buy all these things, because, well, I've got the money to do it right now. And I'm like, nope, must not, don't do it. Don't spend the money yet. You can wait. No. Because my inner guy liking stuff just wants to buy new toys. And I look at it very much in a sake of, I want to have the tools I need to move forward in this venture, and being able to spend that, like, having the money to spend and spend on that is just must not buy gadgets yet. And it's entirely possible I can find them for cheaper. So I really need to shop around. Really do. Just got to be careful. And my wife, don't let my wife yell at me. But yeah, I'm just all this craziness with me trying to, starting the voice productions, Odd Dad Out voice productions, and simple stupid stuff like, yeah, I need to come up with a new logo, little stuff like that. But it's little things I need to do, and I'm terrible at, but I don't have the resources to pay somebody for things, and I'm not great with explaining what I want necessarily, or even coming up with like an original idea. And so, yeah, it's just brain getting in the way of braining. I don't know. But thank you for sticking around for this long of my just rambling, pulling shit out of my ass, because it's just kind of one of those weeks, I guess. Oh, man. I'm tired. I'm between all of I haven't been sleeping. I'm sacrificing my little bit of sleep for this venture in making other money. And I realize it's not something I'm supposed to be doing. And even I was chatting with Heather from Sunshine and Power Cuts last night. And even she was like, I was telling her, I was like, I feel like, it just kind of goes to something when I was actually chatting with Adam from Nerds with Words, that social media is hard. Social media is hard, especially in the podcasting game. But social media is hard, especially when you're, hashtag nice guy Adam, promoter of podcasts and supporter of all and all of these things. And sometimes it's hard to keep up with. I've built up this reputation, and I feel like lately I'm kind of slacking in my promotion of others and my sharing and spreading of others because I've been busy, and summertime, kids in the house, and family, and now work, regular work, and summer's a busy season at regular work, and then home time, podcasting work, and it's a lot. But I'm always been of that sort of mind where I don't want to call myself selfless, because it sounds kind of, when you call yourself selfless, doesn't it seem kind of douchey? I don't know if douchey is the right word. But it's just, I kind of feel it feels wrong to refer to myself as selfless. But I guess if you look at it for, its merits, that's kind of where I am, I guess, is that I would much rather spend my energy helping other people, or supporting other people, and promoting others, and doing all these things, rather than promoting myself, or even taking care of myself. The burnout, I can deal with burnout. I've worked overnights and lived in the daytime for so many years that for me now, I don't even think about, burnout is that's just me. I'm a permanent burnout. Not that I'm on drugs or anything like that, because it kind of is another way of putting that. But for me, I just look at it as I'm a perpetual state of tired. For me to be able to catch up and be fully rested, I would probably have to have a week where I have no responsibilities, no kids, no wife. And yes, I realize this is an awful thing to say, but me just alone to be able to do what I want to and get the amount of sleep, whatever the hell amount of sleep that my body just says, nope, you're going to keep sleeping. Do I need to keep sleeping? Yep. No alarms, no kids, no wife, nobody telling me when the hell to get up and go to sleep. None of that. And get all the sleep I need in a week to completely 100% recharge my batteries to some level of normal. I also have no clue what that feels like. Really. That's not how I operate. I've always been I run on caffeine and sugar, and apparently I'm in good health, so it's working for me. But, I run on high test and on little sleep, and I wrangle kids, and I work, and my work is easy enough. My work out in the world it's easy enough work, but it is taxing on the body because it's long hours on your feet, heavy machines, big heavy buckets, things like this. It's labor intensive. And so it does wear on my body. It wears on my legs. It wears on my feet. Some days it wears on my back, but, and I've talked about, like last week when I mentioned I technically have scoliosis. Not that it really does too much. It doesn't really affect me that I can tell, other than I have had to change my sleeping arrangement recently. But, I don't overly abuse my body, but I sure as hell don't take care of it very well. I don't get the rest I need. And I think it's just part of being a parent and essentially working two jobs at this point. I work full time overnight. I'm usually working, 45-ish hours a week. It's usually dependent on how long my Saturday is. Usually, if I'm looking, it's like, how long is Saturday? If Saturday is a short day, I'm probably not going to have a very long week overall, because Saturday for me can range anywhere from 5 hours to 13. And it's just kind of the nature of the work. And especially if, say, I had to go out of town for work, like I did this last week. I had to go out of town. I was working in Prescott this last weekend, which, if you are familiar with Arizona, it's basically an hour and a half north of Phoenix into the mountains. Really nice, very closed in western sort of town. It is kind of it's a touristy, the town isn't touristy, but it does draw tourists. People will go there for the environment and things like that. But it's not one of those, like Sedona it has a touristy sort of section where, here's the row where the tourists go. And it's all the really kitschy shops and the hokey stuff. Sorry for a little break there. You may have noticed the little sneaky sounds of Sam sneaking into the room. Sneaky. Door slamming and him just singing away as he walks in. But yeah, okay, sidebar. Sam just walked in here and I'm like, hey, Sam. He's like, no, my name's Bob. I'm like, who's Bob? Like, I am. So I guess his name's Bob now. Don't know how my wife is going to feel about that. I texted her this little interaction because, well, it's weird. But then again, my kids, of course they're weird. But yeah. The wonders of when you don't have a plan for the show. I'm going to get back on track, I promise. But I've got maybe one more show before I go on vacation. So I don't even know if I may or may not miss any more shows. I might try and get something pre-recorded. I don't know. Not doing the news means I can theoretically pre-record shows. Because I was always kind of stuck on my news was current. And that was kind of my thing, is that I always kept, Ice in the Face pulls stories that are relatively old. The Crazy Town podcast, he pulls a lot of stuff that's pretty old. But I always made it a point that the stuff that I pulled was within the last week and a half. Basically, I didn't pull stories until Monday because I was pulling all the good stuff that popped in over the weekend. But again, cutting it close. But without doing the news, I could theoretically be recording on Mondays when I'm off of work. But at the same time, I'm off of work. I could be editing. I could be taking the ability to have a longer day and be editing the show and editing for money instead of screwing around here and pulling stories out of my ass. I don't know. I gotta figure these things out. I gotta work out this new schedule and the workload and how much can I handle, because that's really a big thing is, in this new venture of taking on jobs as an editor, trying to work in voice stuff. It takes time, and there's only so many hours of the day. And like we just said, I fill them up pretty well, not sleeping. And I have sacrificed what little bit of sleep I do get during the day. I've gone from maybe 4 to 5 hours of sleep in a day, if I was lucky, to maybe 2 to 3 hours of sleep in a day. And yeah, I know it's not healthy, but it's a sacrifice I'm making. And if I'm too tired to work, I don't work. Not so much at night. At night, that's it. I got to work. But I'm kind of wired for being up at night for my job. But during the day, if I'm too tired to work, I don't necessarily work. If I just have to take a nap and I have to pull myself away from the computer and no editing and all that, I pull myself away. I take like a 30-minute nap or whatever if I have to. Or I call it quits for the morning and say, okay, I can't work anymore. I'm going to sleep and take like a 30-minute nap or whatever. Or, hey, and that's the best part of the summer, not having to pick up the boys from school, because I basically can take the time where I normally would be picking the boys up from school and take a nap. But it's all these little things. And I realize we're about a month into the summer now. June is almost over. We're about a month into the summer. I still haven't 100% got our schedule kind of hammered down, primarily because the boys keep getting themselves grounded. And I realize you're going to do I can't believe you're grounding them during the summer. Well, Charlie and Damien have this terrible habit of getting into shit that they're not supposed to and trying to sneak things that were taken away from them. Many of these things were put up on really high shelves so that they can't get them. And so in order to get them, they're climbing up, things that aren't safe. Or we put them in our closet, or we put them in our nightstands. And so they're sneaking in while we're asleep and stealing these things back. And I think I mentioned before, I killed our Xbox. I unplugged it. We took the remotes. We stashed the controllers away. We did all these things. And I look up one morning and Charlie and Damien are sitting there on the Xbox playing Monopoly. And then they're playing like this other little adventure game. Like, A, you're not supposed to be downloading shit on my Xbox. B, it was unplugged. And I had the controllers. So you had to be sneaking around doing sneaky shit to be able to do any of this. And lately in the last week, it's just been tons of them sneaking around and getting into shit. And it's like, all right, fine. You're grounded. Great. I hope you're happy. If you'd not been doing shit like this, then we'd be getting to go out and have fun and do fun things. But now we can't do that because you got your asses grounded. And then they just keep, piling on. Like, you're already grounded. Why do you keep doing the shit that got you grounded? So that's been kind of a headache and taxing. But, what can you do when you got 4 kids? They're just gonna beat you up. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I've been. I've got a cup of stale coffee in my hand because I made it at 8 o'clock and I started recording at 11 and it was still the original pot of coffee from this morning. And it's still coffee, so I'm still going to drink it. Because even burnt coffee is still coffee. But I think I've rambled enough for now. I'm going to take a quick break. Because it's a shorter show. I don't know. And I'll be right back with this week's recommended listening feature, the Sometimes Geek podcast.
Hi, my name's Jeremy. I've listened to podcasts for years. I've always had questions about my favorite shows or for my favorite hosts. I started a Facebook group called Podcasts We Listen To. It's a place where listeners can talk about their favorite shows and find new favorites. It's a place where podcasters can get tips on improving their shows, share their shows, and find new audiences. It's a place for all things and all genres of podcasts. That group has taught me that we all have questions about our favorite hosts. And now that group has become a show called Podcasts We Listen To. You can join me every Wednesday as I sit down with your favorite podcast hosts. You can get in questions for hosts by emailing them to podswelistento@gmail.com, or you can tweet me at podcastswlt. And of course, you can join the Facebook group as well. I'd love for you to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your favorite shows. See you next Wednesday.
Dude.
Bitch.
So this is what our podcast is normally like. My name is Gareth.
I'm Bex.
Why did you say it like that? What?
Because I didn't realize you were going to leave that in there.
That's why I tell you the mic's live all the time.
You're a dick.
And you can experience this kind of random shenanigans every week on the other podcast, Gareth's Random Ramblings. You can
With
find
Bex.
us... What?
With Bex.
You get... Fine. It's Gareth's Random Ramblings. You can find us on iTunes or Spreaker, or you can also check out garethsrandomramblings.space.
Because Gareth is too cheap for the .com.
He's just a guy, he loves to ramble randomly across the wire. It's Gareth.
Recommended listening.
With all the gaming sites full of editorials and fluff pieces, it can be hard to stay up to date on the news from the gaming industry. The Sometimes Geek podcast is a quick and easy listen each week that covers the major headlines and the occasional review, with thoughts from an everyday gamer. You can find us at sometimesgeek.com or on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts.
That's right. I'm going extra nerdy this week with the Sometimes Geek podcast, a video game podcast. And I'm kind of inspired to do this one by two things. First, I was recently did a recording for Play Comics, which will be out in a few months. I'll talk more about that later. But very video game focused show, and got to kind of stretch out and express my video game nerddom that I don't talk about here a lot. But also, Derek from the Sometimes Geek podcast is also a fan of this show, and he actually was one of the people that submitted questions for the 100th episode. He actually asked the one about what was my favorite jackass of the week. And so, yeah, awesome guy. And I mean, the interaction I've had with him over this show are why I started listening to his show. And it was interesting kind of because I am in that sort of geeky, nerdy bubble, but I always call myself a general purpose nerd because I'm into all the things a little bit. I'm not a hyper nerd or anything in any particular area. I watch Star Wars and Star Trek. I have engineering and technical knowledge and electrical doodads and whatnot. I enjoy sci-fi. I enjoy horror, which is a very geeky, nerdy thing. But I love video games, but I'm also not a hardcore video game nerd. But saves time. He is much more of a up there level video game nerd. So part of his show is he's just playing lots of video games, and he's trying out new games and indie games and big name games. And it's really kind of and it's a very short show. And it's interesting to listen to because if you have any interest in kind of what's going on in the video game world, it's a great resource for that. Because like I said, he's demoing and he's playing these games. Some indie, some bigger names. You know, a big name game comes out, you got to try it. And he kind of puts it through its paces and gives a review of the game. Here's what I'm playing. Here's what's coming up. Here's gaming news. And like so many other shows in the pop culture, geeky, nerdy ecosphere, you'd think there wouldn't be a lot of regular news in the bubble, but there is. There's video game news all the time, whether it's this company's working on this or, oh, Bethesda's suing Warner Brothers, things like that. You know, there's always stuff. And this time of year, because E3 just happened, the video game news is all over the place. And he actually was doing daily updates throughout E3, basically covering each of the press conferences from the big companies, you know, Microsoft and Nintendo and Bethesda, and getting daily updates on here's all the, and they're probably about as long as a regular episode in some of those cases, depending on how much information you got. But it was cool to check in. It's like everything, another Sometimes Geek, nope, another Sometimes Geek. And man, that's a lot of work. You know, for shows that do those sort of things, video games and movie podcasts, those shows that have to do research like that, you have to be up on the industry news. I make fun of shit in my news, or did. You know, I don't have to do a lot of research. I just have to look for something that makes me laugh or I roll my eyes at. They're having to do research and dig through, you know, got to play the games, got to watch the movies. And it takes a lot more time to play a video game and establish and build a review of it than it does to go and sit down and watch a movie and say, it's crap. There's a lot more time investment in playing video games, believe it or not. You know, you can shit all over games, whatever you want, if you're the kind of person that likes to shit on video games. But it is to review video games and to really kind of be into it. It's a very time consuming sort of thing. And you have to enjoy playing the games when you do it. I wouldn't say for a living, or even professionally, but when you're like a podcaster and it's your thing, podcasting is a job. Whether or not you get paid for it, podcasting is a job. We're kind of like people on talk radio who pay for airtime. Things like that. It's like, you're not getting paid. You're actually paying to do this thing. And well, when you're in that sort of ecosphere, when you're in the video game thing, that's a major time commitment. You're committing a lot of time and a lot of energy to this thing. And video games take time. And if you're going to do it right, you've got to really put in the paces on those games. And I don't know about you, a week is not a lot of time to spend on a game. It isn't. And then to, you know, formulate full opinion. He does a great job with it though. And I'm going to say, he's probably the most monotone person I've ever seen when he's talking about video games. Even when he's excited, he's pretty even keeled, which is kind of crazy. You know, when the guys from PRL, especially Joe was the video game guy. Joe would go crazy. He's a very animated personality. And him talking about video games, I can't even repeat some of the things he would say in excitement and exuberation. But Derek is very even keel, he's like, you get the information. And similar to, we watched a thing with movies. He does take it like very straightforward, gives his opinions, but gives his opinions in a factual way and supports it. It's like, hey, this is this thing. Oh, this new game that came out isn't really a new game. It's just a rebranding, or it's a kind of a port over of another game. So I'm not going to bother playing it. It's like, even though I liked it, I'm not going to play it again because it's basically just a new title on a different console or whatever. That sounds like crap. I'm not going to waste my time and money playing this game that was just, no, it's garbage. You know, things like that. Or, hey, I'm really excited for this coming, whatever. But again, getting the video game news, putting in all that effort during E3, because geez, again, I did the National Podcast Post Month in November. I intend to try and do it again this year. It's hard to do a daily show of any kind. Now, when you're covering in like news conferences and this big industry conference, like that's a lot of work. You've got to stay on that shit. And if you have a day job, shit, I don't know how he did it. I was like, did you just take the week off for E3 or something? Like, maybe he works from home. I have no clue. I don't know the personal lives of most podcasters, especially those that I feature, to know necessarily. Especially some people don't talk about their personal lives. You know, when you do a show like Sometimes Geek, outside of talking about when he's got like co-op games and 2-player games, he plays with his wife. His wife plays games with him. Things like that. But outside of that, I know the guy's married. And I know for whatever reason he listens to this show. Thank you again, by the way, thank you, Derek, for listening to the show and submitting a question way back at episode 100. That was a long time ago. This is 111. And thinking 11 episodes, that was a couple of months, that was 2.5 months ago. God. And next month, coming up, actually right after I get back from vacation, is going to be my 3-year anniversary. Wow, that's coming up fast too. Wow. Don't think I'm going to do anything special for that one other than just, hell, I may even pre-record it. Shit. But that's beside the point. You need to check out Sometimes Geek podcast. If you are at all into video games and you are into video game news and you want to stay up on the stuff and you don't need a lot of bullshit, this is the way to go. Derek gives it to you straight. You get the reviews, you get the news, straightforward, no filler, really. Was it great taste, less filling? That's the Sometimes Geek podcast. I think I just compared him to Coors Light. I'm sorry. Or Miller Lite. I don't know. I don't know beer. I just remember the ads. But again, if you want to check out video game news and reviews and all that fun stuff without a bunch of crap, sometimesgeek.com. Tell them you heard about the show through Odd Dad Out, because that would just be kind of cool of you. So if you have a show that you think I should check out, something you think should be featured here, drop me a line, show@oddadoutpodcast.com. And if I do feature it, I will give you a shout out because absolutely you deserve it. So let me hear what you want me to listen to, because I'm running out of stuff myself, really, because I'm not going to pitch you on my industry stuff all the time. There's tons of stuff I'm listening to, but I don't think it's really for you. This is the stuff I listen to for me. But all that aside, it's about time we get the show wrapped up, but I cannot do that without the crowning jewel of every episode. It's probably how I'm just going to stick them at the end now. It's time for the Jackass of the Week. This one's coming out of the UK. Man convinced festival goers to buy hot dog water for £30. A performance artist set up a shop at a street festival selling bottles of hot dog water, as in the water used to boil hot dogs, and convinced people to pay £30 each. He claimed it would help with weight loss, increase brain function, and improve vitality. But he did it all just to prove the dangers of misleading health marketing. Generally just saying that people will buy anything if you tell them it's healthy, and you can make up any fucking thing you want, because people were really buying it. So really, the Jackass of the Week isn't going to this guy. It's going to every dumb shit out there who bought a bottle of fucking hot dog water thinking that it was going to help them with weight loss and make them improve brain function. Has ever anybody told you eating hot dogs was going to be good for you? Why the fuck would the only way drinking hot dog water would help you lose weight is if you were drinking hot dog water as opposed to eating a bunch of hot dogs, because you're just drinking the water. Other than that, you a dumb shit. People will believe anything if it's phrased to them. P.T. Barnum, a sucker's born every day, and this guy just proved it. Fucking people agreeing to pay £30. I don't know what it translates into dollars exactly, but I know it's still a lot of money for a bottle of fucking hot dog water. It's utterly ridiculous, completely stupid. These people are idiots. And he absolutely deserved to take them for every penny because they were stupid enough to pay it. So, to all of you dumb fuckers out there who bought a bottle of hot dog water thinking it was fucking healthy, y'all are a bunch of jackasses. So, that's the show, folks. Thank you for making it this far if you did. I realized threw the whole rhythm and the whole everything out of there for you, changing things up. But I think that's where we're gonna be. That's where we're gonna live now. We're gonna wrap it up with a dumb shit. Why? Cause. Thank you for making it if you did. I'm pretty sure I lost some of y'all in the middle. I don't think it's gonna run as long as I did this time because I just had nowhere to go. I promise I'm gonna know what I'm talking about next week. Just mind fry. But you can catch all the past episodes, much better ones than this one, at oddadoutpodcast.com. Again, if you have any recommendations for me for podcast or maybe a nominee for the Jackass of the Week, show at oddadoutpodcast.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at oddadout. And until next week, I am Adam Higgins, the Odd Dad Out. Thank you and good night.